that time of the year again, which means that families all over the world now have the wondrous opportunity to get together to scream at each other about politics and listen to stories about an old guy who hallucinates that he gets visited by Union sympathizers. And of course, the mascot of this season is Santa Claus, everyone's favorite well-intended home intruder. And although his name is recognized worldwide, what most people don't know is the backstory behind this bearded philanthropist. While he's known for delivering presents on Christmas, Santa Claus actually played a far more important role in history. You see, St. Nicholas actually had a pivotal role in ending the Cold War. So gather round, everyone, and listen to how Santa saved us from nuclear annihilation. As you'll know, during the Cold War, the world was split into a capitalist bloc led by the US and a communist bloc led by the Soviet Union. These two superpowers competed fiercely for world domination. Now, what does this have to do with Christmas? Well, it turns out that our friend St. Nicholas is in fact an embodiment of the mixture between communism and capitalism. Starting with the obvious, Santa bears a striking resemblance to Karl Marx, along with many other communist leaders, as well as living in a frigid climate and wearing all red. He also promises to give away free stuff and spies on people to determine if they've been good or bad. On the flip side, as every hipster is all too eager to point out, Santa Claus embodies a commercialized spirit of Christmas, encouraging people to spend money on gifts and being endlessly used in advertisements. As you can see, Santa is a clear embodiment of these two opposing ideologies, which of course positioned him as the perfect mediator between them, especially given the fact that he wanted everyone to unite in the spirit of Christmas and not be bogged down by political differences. But what's more, Santa's sleigh, which flies around the world at high speed to deliver presents, was the perfect tool to monitor the skies for ballistic missiles. In fact, it's theorized that the reason why nuclear weapons were never fired during the Cold War was that no military commander dared to do so, for fear of being put on the naughty list. These fears were so widespread that the North American Aerospace Defense Command created the Santa Tracker to hide their nuclear tests from him. Now, to understand how Santa finally managed to end the Cold War, we have to go back to the Russian Revolution. During the Russian Civil War, the Bolsheviks managed to obtain support from an unlikely candidate, the Grinch. See, this insidious furry was an avid reader of Marx, and believed that under communism he could finally achieve peace and quiet during Christmas, by ending the capitalist traditions that caused so much ruckus during the season. His support was a vital factor for the victory of the Red Army, and thus he had great influence over the new Soviet Union, which he used in order to eliminate all Christmas celebrations and get rid of the holiday. As such, Santa was unable to deliver presents in the USSR. However, in 1985, upon taking power, Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev found an old book with a bearded man on the cover, which he assumed to be Karl Marx. But once he started reading it, he found out that the man was in fact Santa Claus. It turns out that the Mensheviks, the other main socialist movement in Tsarist Russia, were supporters of Santa, as they believed that his universal giving of gifts was in line with socialist ideals. And although most of their influence had been wiped out by Stalin, some of their literature remained. Upon hearing the tale of St. Nicholas, Gorbachev decided to give this old tradition a chance, sending a Christmas list to Santa and putting up stockings in the Kremlin. And thus, on Christmas Eve, the figure of St. Nicholas descended for the first time upon the domes of the Kremlin, leaving behind presents for the Soviet leader. Gorbachev, who was still awake at the time, saw a sleigh pulled by reindeer flying from view, and it's said that Mikhail's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. After this, he decided to liberalize the USSR so all Soviet citizens could experience the spirit of Christmas, leading shortly after to the end of communism and the Cold War. And that is how Santa saved us from nuclear annihilation. For now. Now you may be thinking, Walrus Detective, do you honestly expect us to believe that the fall of communism was caused by Santa Claus? This is ridiculous even by your standards. But I can assure you that while I may have taken a couple of creative liberties, this story is very much real, and those who deny it just need a little more Christmas spirit. After all, where would this holiday be without mild disinformation? And that concludes the Walrus Detective Holiday Special. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good night.